Hall of Famer. All right, so I see, John, I see the dirty laundry in baseball being aired publicly, and, it's all leverage, and, you're trying to make the players look bad, and the players will release stuff. But I did think to myself, okay, they're asking players, star players, to play for 20 cents on the dollars. And I'm thinking, there's a difference between asking for a pay cut and being insulting. And I wonder, as a former star player who talks to star players, you start insulting people, John, and you may create a wall you can't break through. When you talk to players, what did they make of the stuff that aired yesterday, asking stars to forget pay cuts, just 20 cents on the dollar?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is that there is all of this negotiation and posturing going on. I can remember back in '94, no matter what the reality of what we talked about and what we were ready to agree upon, you never win that PR battle as players. It's just, especially today, times 1,000% what people are wanting and going through. In no way can you compare in relative terms to the world. So the players and the owners are going to figure this out, I'm positive, but it is going to get ugly before it gets better, or maybe we're at that point now, because, we can only speculate on what we're hearing. And certainly we understand, and I understand being in the industry now, removed 10 years plus, that what you hear is not always the reality of what's going on. And both sides, I'm confident of, will try to figure out what is the fairest opportunity to get this game played again, because that's what players want to do. Of course, the owners want to do that as well. But we've never had times like this before. So the rules are going to be so far removed from what you typically are negotiating in a kind of a union way. This is times 10. This is going to be a battle that no one's going to win unless they're able to get on the field and play. And I really believe that's what they're trying to do. And to your point, when you hear some things like that, it's easier to react and try to talk about that, and maybe not be it may not be the reality. Everyone is going to suffer. Proportionally, it's going to be different for a lot of people. And I think that if you can get to that common ground to where everyone understands we got to give something, then hopefully this thing gets ironed out quicker than later.
I can see a football player or a soccer player. Let's take soccer, MLS. Give me a ball, give me a net. I can do a lot of stuff myself. I can stay in shape. I can get on the treadmill. I can run. I can get soccer shape pretty quickly and stay in it. For a baseball pitcher, it's a skill-driven sport. Even a golfer, I can play by myself up and down. How in God's name does a pitcher stay in shape? Who do you throw to? Seems to me baseball would need a month minimum of spring training style baseball to get ready. Or am I wrong?
No, I think that everybody understands they were going to be given a notice to when to have 2 weeks. And then that would ramp up and allow you to stay. Look, pitchers are going to play catch every other day. They'll take 3 days off. A lot of pitchers' arm strength will come back because they're utilizing more long toss. But I would think, now I can speak for myself, if I or a veteran pitcher like today, I was dealing with this would be okay for me to really get connected with my mechanics. You can do a lot of dry drills without throwing a baseball that help your mechanics when you get back. The arm strength and the ability to throw a baseball, you can do that in various ways, but you're right in the finite detail of command. It'll take a while for that all to come back, but I'm telling you that once they know that there's going to be a spring training and there's 2 weeks to get ready, they'll have 10 days before then to get ramped up. The veteran guys are going to have a huge advantage. It's the younger guys who are more used to being able to get the ball, fire it, and be at their best velocity-wise, maybe not control-wise. So I think you'll be surprised that players will figure this thing out. The timing of everything will be a little interesting because that would take a little while, but I don't think they're going to expect everybody in the beginning to go 7-8 innings. I think you're going to see a more expanded roster and more usage of players in the beginning stage of this sprint, which looks like would be around 82 games.
Baseball made almost $11 billion last year. It's not as stylish as the NBA. It's not as urgent as football. We don't bet it like we do NFL. It doesn't have the pugilistic, regulated violence like a boxing or a UFC. Sometimes it's not as sexy, but the sport's making a ton of money. Everybody's making money. The owners, the players. Local TV ratings are great. Regional ratings are great. I do think the sport, I don't care about length of games. Get me around 3 hours, I'm good. I never complain when I'm watching a great baseball game. I go to a park, 3 hours is fine. I don't want 4, but 3 is fine. I do think the tweaking should be an urgency. I think with our phones now, John, we're sitting on these things. You have to wake us up. We get everything. We get our news in a minute. Baseball's got a 162 game season. I think the urgency of this year, 82 games, is going to make me want to watch more. You got to watch a weekend series, Yankees Red Sox. You're not going to get 5 of them. Do you think it's possible that if this goes well, 82 games, really intense, terrific playoffs, rested players, fewer injuries, that baseball may go, we may have found something here. We may want to tweak fewer games. Do you think that's potentially, it could happen?
I think there's some real potential out of this that could create some unique changes. Look, I've been a big advocate. I kind of in the past have been crushed for this, but I love a split season. The sprint of each half to get to a postseason play would be much more enticing and exciting for every market than the necessarily grind of 162 that historically we've been able to play. So I think you're going to see if they get going on an 82 game, it'll seem like a sprint.
Yeah.
Because the calendar of baseball and for the world, they're used to seeing a game every day that makes things feel normal again. That's why baseball is so important to the country, because it is the longest sport. It is the calendar of every single summer month, and it goes into the fall and spring that you're waiting for your team to get to the postseason. I have always been an advocate for shortening the season by a little bit and expanding the playoffs, because then you have 2 races, you have 2 sprints from the first half to the second half to get to a place where you could win both halves and have an advantage by getting a bye. But I think you're going to see some tweaks out of this, especially in the playoff scenario, that will forever change the game in the future, and I think make more excitement for what we typically are seeing today, right? You and I both know that if a club's either in it or out of it, and when they're out of it, they just it takes longer. It takes 7 years to rebuild a club. Because, let's face it, for a lot of those clubs, they have computed, both through analytics and from their roster, that they can't compete in 162 games. They're trying to rebuild their roster and their fan base, telling them 7 years from now, we're going to be like XYZ club, and this is how we're going to win. But the sustainability of that is up for question. But I really maintain that any club can compete in a 78 to 80 or 70 to 80 seasoned split that allows them to at least get a chance for one of those halves to compete for season. I think that's what you're going to see in this 82-game sprint. I really do. With the opportunity of 2 extra playoff teams, from what I understand, if they go that route, that would make for what you just said, must-see TV down the – you're not going to have this huge gap. The great teams are still going to be great. The mediocre teams are going to be able to compete. And this is what people don't understand about baseball. If all of a sudden you put everybody in the hopper and they all had to play a best-of-3 to get to move on, a lot of those teams could win a 2 out of 3. And in the season, they wouldn't even look like they could compete in a best-of-3. That's what's unique about baseball. And I think we're going to see some changes, to your point.
Finally, I got to ask you a golf question. You're a legendary golfer. What's your handicap, by the way?
Well, during this time, it's actually gotten a little bit better. So it's at +3 now.
Okay.
And I'm trending that way.
Okay, it's very, very good. So I watched Brady and Manning, and I said, I was surprised. Even Brady, I'm like, the guy's playing. Football, you don't get breaks. By the way, a baseball pitcher, after John Smoltz pitches, next 2 days, you didn't have to come to the park. You can go grab the clubs. When you watch Brady and Manning, I'm surprised you haven't golfed with Peyton Manning. Have you golfed with Peyton before?
I have, and I've met him once, but I have not been fortunate to play around and golf with him yet.
What did you make? Because I think Peyton Manning looked nervous. He said, that's the most nervous I've ever been in my life. What did you make of the event? Your thoughts as a great golfer?
Yeah, I thought it was great, but I don't think people at home understand how much pressure that is when you've not been in that environment before. Everything and everybody's going to watch every shot. There's something to be said for competing casually. If they would have went out those 4 and no cameras, I guarantee you they would have played a little bit better. Now, understand the circumstances were pretty severe, too. I thought, and I look at swings and I look at the opportunity that each guy had, in their nerves once they got past the ninth hole. And I know for even, Brady, it seemed like he was a little bit more relaxed. But that is a tough environment until people can experience that. They'll never know what that's like to have a camera, and there's no redos. Like, you don't get to say, hey, let's take another take on that. So I thought it was great. I thought that the camaraderie and everything that could go about, obviously the weather, we wish the weather would have been a little bit better, but very envious. Would have loved to see, a few more of these kind of matches, especially when people think it's easier sitting at home. I kind of liken it to this. You watch a game show, and at home, you have more time, it seems like, to answer the questions right. And you see some of the most crazy answers under the gun. When you're under the gun, things change big time.
Yeah. I used to do a game. I'd go play. Whenever I play golf, and if it's a good buddy, if he has a 10-foot putt, I'll just put a 20 by the cup. They never, ever putt as well. A $20 bill. Even for somebody that's got a lot of them, it's just that $20 bill. You're not the same. Sweet as.
There's no about that. You're right.
John, great seeing you. Thanks so much for coming on. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.